it's just really rough. You really fret the nights. Um, and then there's so many risks because you're out there either spare changing or selling drugs so that you can try to have something in your pocket, and um, you're always looking over your shoulder. So uphold your personal morals is number one. First, self-respect. Those are the things that will keep you alive out there. The big one, survival. Ingenuity it was a really good one that I learned out there.
My name is Janice Heemer, and I'm originally from Ohio. Came to Durango about 10 years ago. One of the things that happened in Durango that a lot of people aren't aware of with the homeless community is that the Greyhound bus service stopped. And it stopped about a year ago. And what used to happen is the homeless people would leave town when it got cold. They would hop on the bus as soon as the weather turned and they'd go to Arizona. We were able to obtain a facility north of town where we actually have guys living. Right now we have, I believe, 12 guys living at our facility north of town, and the name of our nonprofit is called Southwest Transitions. I've also dealt with a lot of homeless people. I have seen them sleeping in the alley or sleeping behind a building. A lot of times I give them money for food, still personally, because the situation is so overwhelming in Durango. It's just so hard to live here. Even when you're working, it's hard. But if you're not all mentally there, or if you have, I don't know, a lot of these people have just been drinking for so long that they don't know any other lifestyle and they can't ever come out of it. And so, we see them on the street, we don't really pay attention to them, but they're all around us. And it's pretty heartbreaking. It's a whole different culture that exists around us that we don't even pay attention to. They go down to the soup kitchen for breakfast or lunch. They hang out wherever they can find a warm spot. A lot of them have addictions. They might be alcoholics or they might have drug addictions, and it's pretty difficult for them to get out of that addiction habit because they really don't know anything else. Um, Sometimes at some of the hotels in town, I've seen them. They're out begging money, scrounging up money, and one person will rent a room, and 6 or 7 people will sleep in there just to get off the streets for a night.
My name is Jeff Wilson. I work at the Spanish Trails Hotel. I've been working there for about 3 years. I've seen my fair share of transients, just people that are trying to get from place to place in life, trying to find a place to live or a job. So, just homeless people in general, I've encountered quite a bit. There was an older guy named Ernest Key who happened to need a room for the night. He came in, he was cold, it was probably 10 degrees below zero, and he just wanted a nice warm place to go to bed. So it came to be that eventually he told me this story about his dad who had been dead for a long time, but he had passed out drunk on the side of the Animas River, and half of his body had just fallen into the water. So he was awakened by his father's voice and his presence, and basically was drug out of the river. I don't know how true that could be. It sounds crazy, but it's interesting noting that they're very spiritual in their culture.
My name is Daryl Glenn Anderson. I was born in the Johnson Building in Cortez in 1977, and I've lived in Cortez all my life. I was homeless for 8 years.
That's how people look at you in society, is how much do you have to show? What kind of car do you drive? How much money you make per hour.
We were helping them with clothing and food and all the things that people need to have. sometimes putting them up in a hotel room until they, just to get their someplace to go. They had nowhere to go. And we eventually started working with the Salvation Army, the homeless shelter, and they gave us vouchers to help some of these guys and girls when they came out so they'd at least have a place to sleep for a few days.
I would say that, they all have their own story.
It became that I decided I was going to take a hitchhiking trip to California, and I just ended up staying on the streets. When I made it to California, it started out, it was real nice and everything, and then living on the beach become a little, it made really long days, and then I started kind of getting involved in smoking pot and trying to make money selling it.
They have to hide in certain places all over town trying to make it through the day and the night.
A typical day is you wake up in the morning, you're shivering, you're really cold, you're really druggy because you've slept like not really restfully. Um, you, uh, you're kind of depressed because you don't feel good about yourself. And then, throughout the day, about a couple of hours, it's like you're peaking up good, how you feel good, and then through the night, you're just dragging butt. I ended up kind of sick from it. There was a couple of times I got jumped and got robbed for my backpack. Um, it was really rough. But you kind of get addicted to the people that you're around, and you get used to the lifestyle, and it's a hard thing to kick because it's kind of nice being lazy. And then on the other side, it's kind of embarrassing when you have to go somewhere to eat because you spent all your money on drugs, or you wasn't able to beg for change enough that day to buy you anything to eat.
So many of these guys would be on the street. Matter of fact, there are some guys that, for whatever reason, didn't qualify to come into our facility. We only take certain kinds of offenders, and we give them a tent and sleeping bag, and they go up in the mountains, and that's where they are. And so when we're having this crazy weather of 18 degrees at night, they're all out there sleeping in a tent and a sleeping bag, trying to keep warm. It's very, very difficult, but there are dozens of them up in the mountains.
I tried to be homeless in Denver for a little bit, and it's just easier to be like a snowbird. You run to Arizona or California so that you don't have to deal with the weather.
It's hard to watch. It's hard to see, but there's only so much that we as a community can do, because a lot of them, this is the lifestyle they've chosen.
So, I would just say, from my experiences, giving people the time of day, just talking to them and putting a little bit of a spark in their life is a lot more important than just trying to drop a coin in their bucket.
My family, they spent a lot of years without me there, so they're like, well, Daryl, if you would have been there, we could have showed you some compassion, we could have directed you in the right way. You having a drug problem and healing is your own actions. You learn this on your own. This is not something that we taught you. And so I try to argue with them, and they don't know how to approach it with me either, because when I was there, they taught me better. So I felt like I kind of messed myself out of my childhood a little bit because of my choices. Getting caught for a class 5 felony and going to prison. It woke me up, and I decided that I deserve better. That I don't want to be on this just okay with everything my whole life. They really helped me to realize that I am worth more than just to be satisfied with the small things in life. people have good reasons, and most people that are out there homeless, they feel like they have been done wrong, and that's their way of coping with the grief.
I think that if we look into people's heart and see how much they're willing to try and help other people, and what they can contribute to a group or society, then that weighs a lot more than how much your pocket weighs.